People in front must have been here earlier than the people in back, but the people in back stood up. I don't understand. How are you, everybody? That's good. Are you in? You like where you're sitting? Because there's seats available further down, and be intimate.
VIP seats.
Okay. Where am I? Madison. I love Madison. I was here not so long ago. I was on tour with a one-man show and all. And did I come here with that movie? Yeah. And the movie was fun?
Yeah.
And here I am again. I'll be back next week, so don't worry about that. So, new stuff. I have a Christmas album out there called Shatner Claus. And it's a funny name because I was sitting in Brad Paisley's the trailer. He's a friend of mine, and I was telling him that I wanted him to be on this Christmas album I was going to make. And he said, "What's it called?" I said, "I don't know." He said, "What about Shatner Claus?" And I laughed like you did, and it was funny. But when I went to make it, I got more serious about it. So I took the familiar Christmas songs and I bent them a little, and they're Christmas songs, but they have a little different take on them. And each song I imagine, like Henry Rollins and I do Jingle Bells as the opening. So the vision I had of a new bend on Jingle Bells was that the horses running off. I mean, I drive a lot of horses, and I've been with horses that have run off. So my thought was Jingle Bells and the horses are going faster and faster. And we've had too much eggnog anyway, and that's my version of Jingle Bells. And that's the first song on the album. The last song on the album is I Wish You a Merry Christmas, which I thought would be a good song to put at the end, but with a mariachi band. And it's great fun. So they're saying, "I wish you a Merry Christmas." And I'm saying, "No, I wish you a Merry Christmas. No, you a Merry Christmas." And that's how it ends. And in the middle, with all the other songs, I had made a friend of a veteran who'd come back from the wars, Afghanistan, a little disturbed by battle. And he is an extraordinary poet. But he was so fixated on battle that the only poetry he could write was how ugly and dirty and fearful battle was, and the dirt and the explosions and the blood. But he had written beautifully about it. And I asked him if he could write a Christmas poem. And I didn't know what I would get. What I got from him was a Christmas poem about being overseas in battle and wondering what it was like back home. And I put music to it and kept adding layers of music in the orchestration. And there is a beautiful Christmas song called "One for You, One for Me" that is an original. One of the big numbers in the album. The other big number is The Christmas Story. It was The Night Before Christmas, to which I put music. I had music put to that along with all the other songs. And when I finished it, I thought, my God, this is really good. I wonder how good it is. And you only know, performers only know how good what they're doing, how good it is by the reaction. If you don't react to it, it's no good, even though you may think it's wonderful. If you, the audience, says, nah, and you get bad reviews and people say it's a bore, it's not good. So I finished the album, we sent the album out to critics. So the first person I was going to talk to was a critic. Nobody else had heard the album. And so I called the guy that I was doing publicity for, which, I was doing publicity for the album. And I said, you're the first person to hear this album that hasn't worked on it. What did you think? This was the first reaction. There was a pause on the phone. Oh, what's he going to say? And he said, awesome. And I was so emotional about it, because it was like, this was my baby. My baby was welcomed into the world. So it's a really terrific album. And then, before that, prior to that, Brian Curl of the record company Heartland Records asked me to do a country music album. I know. There was a difference in laughter. One guy went, and I did the same. I thought, I wonder if I can do this. So what I learned was this. This I knew. Years ago, in Times Square in New York City, there was a building called the Brill Building. And in the Brill Building, there were composers in every office. So on a warm summer day, if you were walking in Times Square, this is way back in the 40s, 30s, 40s, 50s. If you were walking in Times Square near the Brill Building, you would hear the sound of piano and composers singing their songs, trying to sell their songs to people like Al Jolson and Eddie Cantor and the vaudeville singers of that time. And even later to people like Frank Sinatra. They'd go to the Brill Building looking for material, and they'd go to these offices, and the guy would sing and say, here's a song, I'm doing it my way, or whatever it was. In the years since then, the Brill Building has gone somewhere. I don't know what's happened to the Brill Building and the composers, but the composers seem to have moved to Nashville, where these new, young composers or older composers are composing music, and in Nashville, they're composing country music. So a lot of the country performers go to these great songwriters. What do you got? And the songwriter, who is usually a performer themselves, and in some instances, these songwriters are great performers, only lightning hasn't struck for them, and they'll demonstrate their song. So Brian Curl, I said, what am I going to sing? And Brian Curl says, I'll send you music that these guys have composed. So he recorded a variety of people who wrote music. So I was receiving on my phone the songs that were being suggested that I sing. And I would discard some and accept some. And finally we had 12 songs that I liked, all demonstrated on the phone. So in the subsequent 2 months, I'd be listening to these numbers that these great performers who had written these songs were doing on my phone. And I learned and I learned and I studied what it was the performer was doing. I could learn about it. And finally, I was in England and I had to fly to Nashville to record the songs. I was doing it with some of the group from Alabama. Jeff Cook, who is from Alabama, was going to be on the record with me. So I got into Nashville about 12 midnight from England, 10 o'clock the next morning, Monday morning, and I was staying at Jeff Cook's house, which is built like a castle. Incredible. And he has a studio in the house. 10 o'clock that morning, Monday morning, I was in the studio, and I laid down all my tracks, which I had learned in one day. On Monday, I had laid down all my tracks. The rest of the week, the guys who were producing the record sweetened everything. People came in and performed different instrumentation. And now there is an album out there called One for You, One for Me, which is a country music album, which is out there at this very moment. So there's 2 albums out there, and a new book called Live Long and ... and the book is about that ... what you do if you're, what I did. So that's what's new with me. Those 3 things, and here I am in Madison saying hello to you. Thank you. So the other part is, let's talk about what it is you're interested in. And there's only one gentleman who wants to ask a question. One guy. 2, there's a young lady, a very young lady, and another young lady. And then there's a guy and then there's a guy in a hat. Memory is one. I'm trying to relate the 2 of those things.
What's like, like memories or like really fun, actions with her, with him? Sorry.
Well, Leonard Nimoy, Spock.
Yes.
Yeah. So Leonard Nimoy. So I met Leonard when we started doing the show. Apparently, I did something, an hour show of some kind prior to Star Trek, but I don't remember. I don't think we met. So we met on the set of Star Trek, and we were together 3 years making the show. And it was great. We had various adventures and stuff. And a strange thing happens, mostly, and there are exceptional cases, but mostly what happens to a cast that's been together, and in performing any performance, whether it's on stage, in film, or series, it's kind of like a war. The cast bonds together, and there's a battle against fatigue, against the producers, against the writer, if you don't feel they've written the right thing. But the cast bonds together, and you form very close friendships. Although, since in working in a series, you might be on the set at 6 o'clock in the morning, and you might not get out till 8, 9 o'clock in the evening, you're fighting exhaustion as well. So there isn't time to have a close friendship. You don't go out to dinner and relax. You're always at work. What happens at the end of that period of time, in Star Trek's case, it was 3 years. Boston Legal, I did 5 years with James Spader. James Spader and I loved each other. We had a great relationship. And when it was canceled, when Boston Legal was canceled, I said to James, I'll call you for lunch tomorrow when we're leaving. He said, great. And then I called him. I can't make it for lunch. There's an appointment. I got to make an appointment. I never saw James again. In all the years since then, we've talked a couple of times on the phone. You just get busy. And you're going in that direction and they're going that direction. Most casts are the same way. So when Star Trek was over, everybody went their way. And for 4 or 5 years after the cancellation of Star Trek, I didn't see anybody from Star Trek. And then strangely, Star Trek became popular. It was in syndication. So, station in Madison Wisconsin who would play it, or Chicago. And these individual stations played it at an earlier hour. More people saw it, and suddenly it became popular. When it became popular, the studio, well, the story is, Star Wars happened, and the studio said, the Paramount studio said, what do we got? That could be like Star Wars. And some guy said, you remember that show that was canceled after 3 years and it wasn't even very good, and there was this guy named Roddenberry, and there was this idiot named Shatner. So they brought it back. And they decided to make a movie of it. All of a sudden the cast is back making a movie. Then we make a second, a third, a fourth, fifth, sixth movie. 6 movies. Then, during that time, somebody says to me, there are 15,000 people in a building, and they're calling it a Comic-Con. They're calling it a Star Trek convention. Would you like to go? And I said, I'm an actor. I don't do conventions. And besides, what will I say? So I didn't go until the numbers got bigger and bigger. And then one day they pushed me out on stage, and I'm facing 15,000 people, and I don't know what to say. I'm like, now, what are you going to talk about? And that's an actor's nightmare. The actor's nightmare is you're naked on stage and you can't remember your lines. Almost every actor has that just before something big, like the opening of a show. And all of a sudden you're naked and afraid, which is a good title for a series, by the way. So there I am, not naked, but I'm afraid and I don't know what to say. But gradually, because you don't know what's going to come out of your mouth. Some foul lettered word, you don't want that. Yeah. Or you say, I hate instead of I love. You meant my love, but hate comes out of your mouth. And Freudian slips. Yeah. You see into my psyche. That's all fearful. But gradually doing them, I became accustomed to talking extemporaneously like this. That brought Leonard and me together. The movies and the Comic-Cons that we would go to together, we would come on, be on stage and make each other laugh. He made me laugh so hard, and I discovered new things about it. Then we'd get into a limousine to be taken someplace, and we'd be talking about our marriage, or our children, or our lives, or our background, and suddenly I had a brother that I never had before. In my life, which has always been acting, I've done nothing else. When I was 6 years old, I was on stage, and I've never worked at anything else. So I've been a performer, and so going to school, I was, I guess, a little different, even into university. But when I became a professional actor, you're traveling around. It's hard to make friends. And so I didn't have many people that I could talk to or close to. And that's, again, not unusual among actors. But Leonard became this dear friend of mine. And the thing about Leonard was he was funny, he was wise, he had all kinds of talents, photographic talents, poetry talents, that I didn't know about until I got to know him better. So when you ask me what exactly, name an amusing story or something, the story of, I wrote a book called Leonard, which is out there. My 50-year-old friendship with a wonderful man. The thing about Leonard was his entirety. The word for his entirety would be his gestalt. The entire Leonard was something that I found exceptional. and loved. So that's it there.
Okay.
I am a parent. Apparently, I am a parent. I am. What's your question? Is that it? Do you want to know who I'm parenting? Do you want to know my children? Well, I have 3 girls, like you. And I remember when they were your age. And I'll tell you what, are you 6 or 7? You're 9. Are you sure you're 9? You look 10. I just said 6 or 7 because I thought that's a figure I would throw out. To me, you look 10 years old. You look like an older lady. But you're 9. So I remember my 3 girls when they were 9. And whenever people come up in line like you are now, my heart goes out to little girls. It's a little weird. Little girls walk by and think, oh, there's my child, my children, 3 girls. So my 3 girls are all grown up now. And they have children of their own that look like you when they were 9. They're now even a little older. So I have grandchildren as well. I have 3 girls and 5 grandchildren. And I'm a parent and I'm a grandparent.
About the episode of Star Trek in which you and Nichelle Nichols kissed.
Wait a minute, I'm losing you.
Oh.
Get closer to the microphone first of all.
Okay. Wow, I feel like I'm making out with it as it is. Seriously? Okay, here we go, people. So, there was an episode of Star
Are you having the same trouble I am?
Really?
Can you understand what you're saying?
Okay.
You can?
Is this better?
Slow down.
Okay.
Yes.
That's my problem.
I'm so glad. Every time a sentence leaves me, like I can't hear what you're saying, what goes on in my mind is, damn, I'm old. But when you say slow down, he can't hear you either. Okay, slow down.
All right, I'll try this. Is this better?
I heard that.
Awesome. There was an episode of Star Trek
Yes.
in which you and Nichelle Nichols kissed.
Yes.
And there was a show called Drunk History that featured the story of that the higher-ups were against the kiss, you were very for the kiss, and that you stretched out the filming of the kiss in such a way that they had to use it. Is that accurate, or could you just talk about that episode, how it came about?
All right. So, in the late 60s, I was going to, the character of Captain Kirk was going to kiss an African-American girl. And, I mean, Nichelle is an extraordinarily attractive woman, and I was looking forward to it, actually, all week long. But people talked about, oh my goodness, a white guy kissing a black girl. I'm okay. And the closer we got to the moment, all right, here's the kiss. Everybody's making a big fuss. I don't know what it's all about. And I think I did something where it made it difficult for them to cut it out. So I think that was part of the thing. I planned it so they couldn't edit the film out of the way. Turned out it was no big deal, and there may have been a couple of the stations down south that didn't play that particular episode because of that. But this country was in transition then, and there was a lot of integration was happening, and so it was picked up as something special. I never thought of it as anything special. So it's been booted about the big kiss, and other people make a big deal of it. I don't. Okay? Hello, Mary.
Hello.
Did you make that or did you buy that? The shirt?
Bought it for Halloween.
You bought it for Halloween. Did you wear my mask?
Probably not, but
Do you know the story of that? Halloween? So they needed a bad guy walking around in a white mask on the movie Halloween, the Gruber movie Halloween. So the producer said, go into the local store where they had masks and pick one out. And they picked up my death mask. On Star Trek, when they would put appliances on my face, it took time. And I was supposed to be in front of the camera. And so they made a clay model of my face so they could use it to put the makeup on. So somebody took that, what they call a death mask, and sold it. And somebody in Halloween chose that mask. And the bad guy wore that, my face, while he was stabbing people. What is funny to me was when I learned that happened, and I had kids like the young lady that was there, I would take my children out for trick-or-treating, and I was wearing my mask. And if they didn't give them candy, I took my mask off! What's your question?
My question involves you in Twilight Zone.
Yes.
So my question is, out of the Twilight Zone episodes you were in, what was your favorite?
Well, there were two that I was in.
Yeah.
But before I tell you, you seem so composed and very mature. How old are you?
13.
Wow. That's great. What do you do?
I write.
You sing?
Yeah, actually I do.
Do you sing?
All the time.
Really? You sing in choir?
No, I used to though.
When you were a kid? Have you got ambitions now to be a singer?
A little bit.
That's A above C. Are you interested in recording?
No, thank you, but I'm okay.
My favorite, so this guy, Twilight Zone guy, Rod Serling, thank you. So Rod Serling, with whom I had worked on live television, which is way before your time, but when television came in the 50s and 60s, and I had done Star Trek, all of a sudden I became popular on live television. I was a theater actor. I had performed in Canada for 10 years before that. So I was an experienced actor who was still quite young. And so the producers got me to cast me because I knew how to handle some words and move around, hit marks and things like that. So I became quite popular on live television. So Rod Serling saw me, and he had a script that in Hollywood that he wanted me to play. So I flew from New York, where I was living and working, and did. I think the first one was on the wing of the airplane. So that was Nightmare at 27,000 feet, right?
50,000 feet.
No. 20,000.
Never mind.
50,000 is nowadays.
Yep.
We didn't get to 50,000 in those days. So there is this script that calls for me to be looking out of the airplane onto a wing in which this little fuzzy creature looks like a teddy bear is standing on the wing at 500 miles per hour. Inside the little fuzzy bear is a Czechoslovakian acrobat. So, I'm an artist. I don't go to conventions. I'm an artist. I'm looking at this guy in a fuzzy suit, and I'm thinking, this is going to be the worst thing I've ever been in. How in heaven's name are you going to suspend your disbelief that a little fuzzy Czechoslovakian acrobat standing on the wing of a 707 with no aerodynamics. He's in a fuzzy bear suit. How in heaven's name are people going to accept this? It becomes the most popular Twilight Zone there. Well, that astounded me because I thought I would be laughed at. You know, Shatner is in one of the worst things that ever was. Again. So then they asked me back. And then there was this other one where the character's taking fortunes out of the little machine. So how fascinating is that? How many people have said, let me see your Chinese cookie. What's it say? Good fortune will happen to you tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to be really, people want to believe these. If it said you're going to die of a heart attack in 3 hours, you wouldn't want to believe it. So people want to believe these things. So I thought, this is really good. This is so much better than the guy on the wing. This appeals to your innermost desire for magical things to happen to you. And it was so beautifully written in that he was so fascinated by what this fortune machine was saying, he couldn't leave town because the fortune machine was saying, beware of traveling tomorrow. Can't leave. And I understood the fascination with that show. And I guess the other one, Nightmare, 20,000 is it or 27? 20,000. Last evening, coming into Madison, we went through a weather front. It was really bumpy. If I were the pilot and knew something about aerodynamics, I'd be really frightened. One of my girls, Melanie, somewhere along the line developed a phobia about airplanes. And we fly a lot. And I had to sit beside Melanie as they are. The pilot is getting instructions from the ground. You're going to hear a change in engine. Oh, is that what it is? Now we're going to go over a bump, but the unsettled air is like unsettled water. Don't be afraid. And then we hit the bumps and even now, it hurts. It was bumpy last night. My daughter would have been hysterical, repeating, if we were meant to fly, we'd have wings. So I think Nightmare at 28,000 feet appeals to all of our fear like that. When something untoward happens with the airplane, we go, oh, we're going to die. So those two shows have become really popular in all the Twilight Zones, I think because it appeals to universal fears more than the others, I guess. You good?
Yep.
Now, help this young man. There you go. Right into the microphone, honey. No, that's better.
Do you still have your original?
Wait a minute, start again. Start again.
Do you still have your original Spock suit? Star Trek suit.
Okay. Somebody else say they didn't hear it either. Yeah, did you hear what she said? Tell me, come over here. What did the young man say?
Do you still have your original Star Trek suit?
Got it. Perfect. What's your name?
Connor.
Tom?
Connor.
Connor. Great. Okay, Connor. Do I still have my original suit? I'm wearing it. You want to buy it? No, Connor, and the major reason why is I wouldn't fit into it. Time does a lot. When you're my age, Connor, you'll look back and say, I saw Shatner, and he was an old guy. I gotta say, it's really embarrassing. I don't know that any of you have seen this, but I've been out several weeks with Khan, with the Wrath of Khan. You see that? So we play the film, and then I come out and discuss the film. And my first words are, this is a little bit embarrassing. Because the film was made 35 years ago. And then I come out. Okay, Carmen? So no, I don't have my original shirt, but I'll tell you something else that might be of interest to you. All that original equipment, the wardrobe, the costume, the thing, the makeup, the sets, was all stored in a building 5 times the size of this building here. 5 times, Carmen. All that original stuff. And guess what? One weekend, during the summer, at night, people climbed on the roof. They don't know who. They banged their way in. They broke open the roof and Connor, they stole all the stuff. Almost all the original stuff was stolen from the stage and Paramount Studios. They never found it.
Look at eBay.
Is that something? Connor? Is that wild? Did you understand what I said? Connor's got a sense of humor. Connor, did you understand what I said into the microphone?
Yes.
Thank you, Connor.
Hi, Bill.
Hi, guys.
My name is Alistair. That's
Your name what?
My name is Alistair.
Allison?
Alistair.
Alistair, why are you wearing a dark hat with a beard and the glasses and a dark coat? You look sinister. What is that? Oh, you got a magic wand. Oh. That's not Star Trek, is it?
I'm actually a bigger Star Trek fan, actually. So
Oh.
that's why I was for sure.
Okay, good.
Comes to you. And that's my son Charlie and his son Dylan right there.
Who right here?
Yep.
Oh, how wonderful. 2 generations.
Yep. And so I just want to say one of my fondest memories when I was a child was coming home from summer camp. And
Right into the mic. I'm understanding everything you're saying.
one of my fondest
No, I got it. Fondest memories when you came home from summer camp was?
And my parents had just moved and to a new home.
Yes.
And I came in and there was nothing in the house except for a TV and an old cable box where you slide it, a slider, and Star Trek, the animated series was on.
No kidding.
And it blew me away, and I watched Star Trek with my parents all the time, so I just really want to say thank you for creating that
It
character.
reminds you of home and your parents?
Yes, absolutely. Well, not just that, but what we believe in and kind of utopia. When I got hired at my favorite employer,
What was your favorite employer?
it was a mutual fund company out of Milwaukee, and but it had a utopian style there, culture, and I said it reminded me of Star Trek.
Wow. What do you think the message of Star Trek is?
Like I think we all agree, like a utopian style where there's peace, and we're able to explore our curiosity in a way that's free, as well as always trying to do the right thing, but at the same time, your character displayed an ability to take risks, but stay in control. And I really like that.
Wow, what a neat summarization of Star Trek. That's great.
So thank you for creating that character. My question is, what did it feel like over the years to see all of the technology and gadgets that were in the show come to life, like cell phones and even in the recording industry and acting, now a lot of special effects.
Yeah.
What was that like?
I mean, I'm astounded. I thank you for your question. I'm astounded at the progression, the progress that these special effects have made. For example, I'm trying to think of whether I should tell you all this. Well, no, the thing I had in mind. I'm part of what I'm doing is making. I did a one-man show, and I toured the one-man show in Broadway, but one of the other things some of the other stuff that I do is I make documentaries. I've been making documentaries of late, and I put together a company called Shatner Universe, and with a group of very talented people, and we're attempting to sell shows to the networks and the various places that display the shows. So one of the shows that I'm trying to sell, I don't want to tell you too much about it, but it involves an animated show with me and an ape. Okay? I won't say any more about that. But I was talking to the special effects people, and I said, you know, I just saw on television the war for Planet of the Apes. I said, my God, they must have been hours in makeup, putting on that makeup and all. The wardrobe where they shortened the legs, I don't know, how would they have done that? Does anybody know how they did that? What?
Motion capture.
They were what?
They use motion capture, which
Mostly capture.
basically computers.
That's exactly right. They photographed the actors' faces, and then special effects. They didn't wear any makeup at all. The makeup was applied with special effects. I was astonished. That's how far they've gone, and I'm into special effects. My son-in-law is a guy who was nominated for an Emmy for special effects. I know special effects. I didn't know that everything else about the apes is animated. All that leaping and jumping and running and in the trees and more. And only the face of the actor and the eyes especially are filmed. And they're sitting down, acting, and they're wired to capture the eyes but everything else in things like Planet of the Apes is all CGI. Computer graphics. I was astonished. The original, when we were doing Star Trek, all those years ago, they had a model of the spaceship, and they had lights in there that were flashlights. Then they'd run a camera by the spaceship, so it looked like the spaceship was moving. And when inside, when we were on the set, and the spaceship was hit by it, and we had to, and it looked like we got hit and jostled, the camera was tilted this way, and we knew, and with much experimentation, when the camera was tilted this way, we had to lean this way. So that's what we were doing. All right, ready, tilt, tilt, and we were doing it. It's no longer like that. It's night and day. I am now part of a virtual reality company called Ziva. Have any of you ever worn the masks of 3D? I've worn the mask at Jet Propulsion Laboratory, JPL. I've walked on the moon. That's how far. I walked on the moon. I had an animal, a zombie, come up behind me that was so real that I turned around and screamed because the zombie was going to leap on me. It's the stuff of nightmares. I said to them when I joined the company, you got to be careful because you could push somebody into a psychological crisis by the it's nightmare. That's how far special effects have gone. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for standing still, sitting still. Pleasure to be with you. Thank you.
Hope you enjoyed that. Please subscribe and like our videos. and check back for more.
All right, later guys.
Bye.